We would be honored if you would join us.
Welcome back again for the part 3 of this episode of the Silvercast, and we've been talking with Juice. Man, it has been really interesting to get to know you, your backstory, and to talk about investment psychology. I mean, this is probably one of the deepest episodes we've ever had, if not the deepest, and we appreciate that very much. Sir, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. You guys are a blessing. I feel super grateful to be here, man. Really am.
Well, we're just as grateful to be talking to you, and we appreciate you making the time for us. And how are you doing today, Silver Conundrum?
Oh man, if I was doing any better, there'd be two of me.
And also, please note the disclaimer that Expat Stacker and Silver Conundrum are not financial advisors or experts. Investing is risky and comes with the chance that you could lose money. So talk to a licensed professional before making any decisions about what to do with your money. This video and all of the contents on our channels is for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. All right, so yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the first couple of parts of this episode, definitely you got to do that. Go check it out. Put this on pause. Go check it out. Learn some stuff, and then come back to this one. And we are going to be talking. We kind of have like a free topic for this one, but one thing that we've been kind of touching on in the previous parts is got to do with teaching people and sharing experience, knowledge, wisdom, and education. So I think that one thing you mentioned in the first part, Juice, was about how like in school, right? Like grade school, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like you were just kind of there because you had to be there, and I could totally relate to that. I got in trouble. I got kicked out of school, and mostly I think it was because, looking back on it, is because they wanted to tell me what to do and like what to think and stuff, and I just wasn't with that. And also I was bored. The stuff they were asking me to read and trying to teach me was just boring. Like, I don't want to learn Hamlet or whatever. That doesn't have anything to do with my life, But
yeah,
if you were able to choose what you wanted to read, which was about financial education, you just hit the books hella hard and read it, like each book like 8 times or whatever. So like you mentioned a couple of titles and a couple of different resources: Steve Neeson, Mark Douglas, Investopedia, and stuff like that. Are there any others that you want to share?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, look, man, I'm gonna tell you something about the education system, and I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and they agree with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The crap that they're teaching right now in the school system is straight garbage.
Yeah.
Nothing is life lessons. Nothing is life 101. Nothing is none of that. And we need to bring that into this world of education, because let's face it, I'm gonna give you an example. My little brother, I always have to give him an example because he's the youngest one that's kind of an adult, but he's not an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And now he knows it because he's whatever. I was there with him, teaching him and all that stuff. But in the beginning, he didn't even know how to open up a bank account. He didn't know what a W-2 was or a 1099. Those type of things you got to learn in school.
Right.
History, the value of dollars, the value of money, how the money came about. People got to learn that. I have something here. Benjamin Graham, The Intelligent Investor, great book. You got to read. Stan Weinstein's Secrets for Profiting in Bull and Bear Markets, great book. Peter Lynch, great book. I have Gus Henson. He's a professional poker player, very good on psychology. What's this other guy that he does a podcast? The bald guy. God damn it, what's his name again?
Joe Rogan?
No, the other guy. Joe Rogan is one of them, but he wrote a book. He did Muay Thai. He's really good with discipline and all that stuff. You know who's also good? He passed away. He was a libertarian, Walter E. Williams. Very good. Peter Schiff has a couple of good books. It's just that he's a little gold bug, but like he's a little bit too goldish. But other than that, there's a bunch of books that you could read that could teach you about the value of money. And some of these books need to be in the education system. Education right now is garbage.
Teach people how to be workers and not entrepreneurs.
I agree with you 1000%. They teach you to be in the system.
Yeah.
Because think about it. When you talk about silver, gold, investing, things along those lines that are outside of the normal box, people look at you kind of funny. And then they start laughing and making fun of you because they don't understand. The second they understand it, and you can see when the light bulb goes off. Like, you really do. Like, if you look at somebody and you explain, like, break it down into children level, then you see the light bulb go off, and it's like, gotcha. Then you walk away and let them just ponder it for a little while. Let them question. Let them go down that rabbit hole. But no, as a general society, the United States does not teach people how to be entrepreneurs. They want you to be a part of the economic cog. You are nothing but a resource to them. You're just labor.
Yeah.
Yep.
They try to teach us what to think and not how we can think, how to think, you know? I mean, that was the biggest difference from when I was in, like, you know, high school or whatever I started out at a community college. I did 2 years at a community college, and then I transferred to a larger university. That was the biggest difference. I was like, whoa, they're not telling me what to think. They're actually challenging me. They're giving me some, you know, case studies or examples or whatever, and then they're asking me to actually think for myself, you know, and how I can do that. You know, different ways of doing that, different ways of approaching that. It's not even just that, though. It's also, I think that the topics that they're teaching us are just like BS, you know, like I said, I don't care about Beowulf, you know, why do they ask kids to read that? Like, I mean, they should be teaching us about financial education. It's like you said, I mean, even after university, I had never gotten an education on as to like, how do I build a resume, you know? I mean,
that
nowadays, yeah, it's just like totally impractical. And it's not like leading towards we're not helping the youth to be able to be capable for themselves. And I think part of the reason why is what SC had just touched on, you know, like they're just trying to make us to become kind of cogs in the machine. So SC, I know that your children are homeschooled, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
And,
that's great.
and so how and why did they ever go to a public school or anything like that, or was that a decision you made early on?
So my wife and I made a decision on that very early on, like even before we had kids. We had this thing when it came to our children, we started noticing my sisters. Now, my sisters are very young compared to me. And we started watching how they started behaving. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You do know 2 plus 2 is 4. And I'm like, oh, I don't need to know that. I'm pretty. And they start twirling their hair. I'm like, what? No, it don't work that way. And then I start looking at my other little sister, and she's like, I asked her, no, this is no joke. And once I say this, if they ever see this video, they'll know who I am. I asked my little sister one day about economics, just simple economics. Hey, who, what, where, when, why, and how does the Federal Reserve play a part in our economic, just our economics, period? And she goes, oh, I don't worry about the Federal Reserve. That's owned by the government. There's nothing I can do about it. And I was like, sis, where'd you learn that at? She goes, oh, they're teaching that in school. I'm like, you know that's not right?
It's like
And once that happened, oh, go ahead.
that gives me anxiety, bro. That's giving me anxiety right now.
So once my wife and I talked about this, we both decided. By the way, this is back in 2010, 2011 timeframe. And my wife and I decided, you know what? Enough's enough. And I don't know, actually, it's a lot later, earlier than that, man. My son's 12 now. God, I'm getting old. So back in 2008 timeframe, then we asked these questions, and lo and behold, my wife and I go, we're not having our kids being taught something that's not right. We'll homeschool. And the best part of the homeschool is I control the curriculum. This state that I live in currently does not. And so I actually have free reign to teach my kids what I want to teach them, whether it be one day of solid math, one day of solid history, one day of solid anything, or a combination thereof. And like when I take my daughter to the coin shop, that's kind of a field trip in a way for her, because she gets to see the different currencies. Like when she's seen, this is no joke, man. She's seen, I can't remember where it was. I wish I would have got it. If they still have it, I might go get it. But she's seen a piece of currency that had 1,000 printed on top of it. She goes, "Whoa, that's a lot of money." I said, "Not really, not for them." Then I had to break it down, and it turned into like that little going to the coin shop turned into an education lesson to her about how the economy works in other countries, and that you can print into oblivion. And then she looked at me dumbfounded. I mean, she's only 10 now, and at the time she was 9. And it's like, baby girl, this is just how it is. Some countries, they print their currency into oblivion, and then they take a, like, prime example, they did in World War II. They would take a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread. And when people would rob them, they would dump the money on the ground and steal the wheelbarrow because it was worth more.
Yeah.
And so that's where my wife and I pick and choose what we teach the kids. And we don't go off of, oh, I personally believe this. No. Well, this is a fact. We teach facts. We don't teach opinion.
I agree with that. There's a lot of opinions out there in the educational system, and it doesn't work that way. I'm one of those dudes where I learned from the streets, not to sound, hoodish or whatever, but I learned from experience. I remember I don't have a degree. I'll say this right now. I don't have a degree. And I was gonna get a degree in business finance, but then I literally said, "No, man, I know more than my teacher does." Just in my experiences. And at the time I was getting paid more than he was, so I was kind of like in that realm of like, hey, you know what, fluffing up juice, I was getting juiced up mentally. And he was like, you know what SWOT is? Yeah, to do a business plan. I go, I basically knew what SWOT was, the strength, weakness, opportunities, and the threats of business opportunities, stuff like that. That's all BS. But I told them, I'm like, look, my man, I told them straight up like this, like the Miami style that I am. I told them, look, my man, when you do a business transaction, you're not going to jump in with what SWOT is. All right. You're not going to go ahead and do a SWOT analysis on a business opportunity. You're going to go in. It doesn't work that way. Life does not work textbooks. It doesn't exist. All right. Never exists. Never exists. Just like the accounting terminology of liabilities plus equities equals assets. None of that exists. It's all a rule of thumb. What exists is you disclosing what your idea is, what your numbers are, and if your numbers are legit or not. Just like a rental property. If I buy a house right now for $200,000, I need to make $2,000 a month to rent that house. Why? Because it's 10% of the equity. Schools don't teach you that.
Right.
Schools don't teach you anything except for the fundamentals and how to become a part of the system. And that is unfortunate. You know why United States is the dumbest country? Because all these other people out there, Chinese, Asian, what is it? Asians, they're good with numbers. I know I'm stereotyping right now, but uh, all these guys, all of these guys in different countries are way smarter than us. Russians, everybody. Why?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
we use what's in front of us, and we take advantage of what's in front of us. Oh, you know what? You know what 2 times 2 is? Hold on, let me get a calculator. No, man. You know what my mom used to do to me when I was younger? Now, my grandmother too, God rest her soul, is the back of the composition book. You know, remember the composition book that it had the multiplication tables 1 to 12 in the
People,
back?
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
memorize
Yep.
that shit.
Yeah.
hey, you're not the only one.
hmm that's how I grew up. And when I used to go to school, it's not that I was bored or anything like that. Honestly, I was more, a rebel in a sense, because I was like, you know what? All these kids go to school. I'm not going to school, because I'm just that type of person. And I would
Mhm.
I would sell Skittles and lollipops in middle school, like I thought I was this entrepreneur or whatever. until they grabbed my ass and I couldn't do that anymore. Um, but I was just one of those kids where it's not that nothing interested me, is that what you taught me I already knew ahead of time. You get
Yeah.
me? I don't know if that makes any sense. I,
Yeah.
I guess because of the experiences that I went through as a child, uh, and my dad is an entrepreneur. I consider my dad an entrepreneur. My dad's been through thick and thin, coming from Cuba at 18 years old with just a pair of pants, uh, you know, coming into this world and making a living and providing food on the table for 3 children, 3 crazy ass children.
Mm.
Uh, I learned from him a lot. And he always told me, he's like, Juice. Of course, he told me by my real name. He's like, Juice. Uh, in this life, you don't work for the man. Don't ever work for the man. We
Mhm.
come to this country because there's opportunity. All right. You might not see it now, but stay patient and keep your eyes open and always jump on an opportunity. Whether you've hit your face on the floor or whether you learn from your mistakes, there's always opportunities. There's always doors that are open that you could go through. Never work for the man. However, however, you have to work for the man because you got to learn work ethic, you got to learn etiquette, and you got to learn how to be how the system works, so that way you don't do what you don't it's just that everything that he told me was in Spanish, so I'm trying to correlate it. How the system works, so that way you don't correlate the system to integrate that to your business. You get me? Like
Yeah.
don't make your employees a slave.
Right.
And that's how I base it off of, man. I don't when it comes to education, I think education is extremely important. But I think self-education is more important than schooling. You gotta
Yeah.
self-educate yourself, and whether it's be the harder way or the easy way, you gotta do it. And
Yeah.
me personally, I do it the hard way because that's just how I was raised.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is about like educating yourself, and that versus like this, kind of education that they try to provide in school, which is just kind of like this cookie cutter kind of thing that doesn't take anyone's personal individual circumstances or history or anything like that into account. And there's all these rules, you know what I mean? Like,
hmm
I don't know. I think Juice, you and I, like, we're probably very different in a lot of ways, but it sounds like the way that we were brought up, there's a lot of similarities when we were kids. And like, I mean, I think that, these days, like, personalized medicine is becoming a thing where they can adjust the, amount of chemicals that's in a particular medicine or the dosage or whatever to fit the individual's like body or their specific problem. And what you're talking about reminds me of that. versus like taking a medicine like over the counter or whatever prescription that's just made the same way to fit everyone, like a Tylenol or something. If you have a headache, you know, you take a Tylenol, it might work, you know. And that's kind of how I look at the education system, is that they just make it like this cookie cutter way. It's just kind of, you know, sort of, you know,
Yeah.
half like a half measure, and it might work for some people, but it's not going to work for a lot of people as well. And
Yeah.
you want to
But
maximize the value of education is so huge, you know. And like the thing that actually turned me around was one teacher. Like when I got kicked out of the regular school, I had this one teacher, and I could tell that she really cared about me, you know, because she started talking to me about my future. And no teacher I ever had ever talked to me about my future, you know. And she started asking me questions like, what do you want, what are you going to do, you know. And like I didn't really think about that stuff, you know. My parents were there, but they were not there. I was like a what they call like a latchkey kid or a lock key kid or whatever. Like they just always working or whatever. I had some other circumstances. That's another time for another, you know, another story for another time. But like she was the only one who actually talked to me about that. And like it, I look back on it, I still talk to her to this day because it completely changed my life. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't for her, I never would have thought about that. I could be a completely different person in a totally different world. So like education and what we learn and think and how we think and everything like that is super important. It's super, super important. And it's never been more important until as it is today, because we have like all the time we have access to this information, you know,
yeah,
with the phone that's in our pocket, the computers, the TV, the everything. It's always on all the time, and it's getting confusing sometimes. There's like blending
there,
between
there's so
information
much.
and
Yeah, there.
entertainment. It's like it's hard to tell, you know. And so like digital literacy and these kinds of things is super, super important. And I think like, you know, your story and what your father taught you is along the same lines. It's like you have to learn from the system, but you also have to teach yourself, you know. And I
Yeah,
think
man.
SC's story is similar. So
I
that's
think
good.
a lot of people need to look up to SE and how he does his parenting. I'll tell you that much, because not a lot of people do that. There's a lot of fluff in this online world where there's so much information that's getting clogged up, and it's like imagine a little small doorway, and then all this information just getting clogged up. What seeps in is just BS. What
Yeah.
seeps into the kids' minds is just BS. The kids need to learn what investing is. The kids need to learn how to open up a bank account. The kids need to learn how to do your taxes. The kids need to learn what tax implications you have if you do something. You know, back in the day, back in my hoodlum days, uh, which wasn't too far back. I'm only 32, but I've been doing crap since I was 14. Is you know there was a lot of things that I got away with that if I try to do now, I'd probably be a pansy and say no to, because I learned from other people's experiences, and also some, experiences that I went through that, is kind of discouraging. But at the end of the day, I think life lessons is definitely key to education. I think everyone around the world need to learn these simple things: what the dollar is, what stock market, how it fluctuates and how it works, what comes into that stock market. Because remember, guys, everything is fluctuating on the stock market.
Hmm.
Your retirement is based on the
Yeah.
markets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
Some people's
livelihood. Huh? What was that?
some people's employment is based on the stock market. Believe it or not.
Yes. Yes. You're 1000% right. So people need to understand the organism of the market, because if they don't understand it, they're going to be ignorant enough to say, you know what, YOLO this crap all the way to oblivion. And it doesn't work that way, because next thing you know, you are going to be there's not going to be an unemployment line for you to go to anymore. So I just think that just educate yourself, man. I mean, to me, education is key. I learned this stock market stuff, and I'm still learning every day. Every day I learn something new. I try to, at least. It's one of those things where it's an obligation for me to learn. Why? Because it's gonna better my kids' future. Not me. Personally, me, I already say I'm already effed up, screwed. Why? Because right now my priority is my kids and my wife. Because I always tell myself, I'm like, you know what? I want to make sure that if I'm gone in an early age, that my wife and my kids are secure.
Yeah.
Let's say my kids are dumb, right? My kids are some dumbasses. They're assholes. They should not deserve anything. At least they have something that can turn them around, because I've seen that happen where the kids aren't worth a penny. They shouldn't be given handed down anything to them. And they are, and they get something handed down to them, and they change automatically because they see what hard work that other person went through to give them that. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. The majority of the time, that's probably goes the opposite way. But I just think at the end of the day, you got to educate your kids of how the market works, how the dollar reacts, how other world economic events can hinder or give you that opportunity in the state or the country that you live in. And if you want to move to another country, what are the repercussions and what are the benefits?
Yeah.
You know, I think people need to understand that, and how this world actually revolves. How this world, it doesn't. Yeah, it revolves 24 hours a day. One my on my side of the pond, it's nighttime, and on your side of the pond, it's daylight. But
Yeah.
but but on a day to day, what are the struggles that you guys go through versus we? You know,
Right.
the United States is the king of the world. Is that gonna be the king of the world 20 years from now? You really
Maybe.
think the
Yep.
United States is gonna be the king of the world 20 years from now? Come on now, you
Mm.
gotta have some common sense in there. You know, the amount of money printing and not even money printing, the amount of debt consolidation that we're trying to do is just ridiculous, bro.
Yeah.
You really want our kids to deal with that shit? You
Yeah.
want our kids need to be educated enough to be able to go ahead and tell ourselves, all right, I need to do X, Y, and Z to get out of this situation. And that's
And
why
that's
I
the thing.
stack.
Yeah.
What was that
I
I
was
say?
going to say, that's the thing, though. When people try to teach their kids, people don't really take the time to really teach their kids. When I sit that back, and this is not just where I live at, mind you, I've been all over the world, so I've got to see a lot of things that has changed my perspective about my reality, so to speak, as we talked before. In my reality of what I see every day on a general scale, and I'm just going to say general scale, most parents treat their kids as if their kids are a bother. Like their kids are just in their way of doing what they want to do.
Mm.
And it's hard to express that feeling to a kid or that emotion to a child when you're like, hey, buddy, you can do better. You can be more than what you are. You don't got to follow in your parents' footsteps. And then when you try to do that, the kid, like what Expat said, his teacher did that to him. And look where he's at now. I mean, he's in Korea. He has a good job. He's got a channel. He's stacking. He's saving. But there's a lot of people who just don't take the time. And I'm not sure if it's because they're selfish, because they want to do their own thing, or because they feel that the kid's going to have to do what they're going to have to do anyway.
Yeah, I
And
think
we as a
it's a mixture of that, and on top of that, I think it's a mixture of your environment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very adamant in that phrase when you say you are your friends, or what's that phrase that people say all the time? You whatever you whoever you hang around.
Together.
Yes, yeah. I agree with that 1000%.
Yeah.
It's toxic, but it's addictive. You know,
Yeah.
The human mind is very addictive, and we're addicted to this environment. And if you're stuck in that environment, it's very hard to get out. Just like in low income, low income neighborhoods. It's hard for someone to get out of that, realm, get out of that environment. But one of the things that I think that we're all good at in the stacking community is trying to teach people that there's always a way out. And I think that that's why I keep pushing this information out there. Whether it gives me views or not, I don't give a shit about that. I care about, if I get 100 views on this chart video, at least one person will say, damn, you know what? I think I could do this, and I think I could get out of my situation. Whether he be 18 years old, 15 years old, 21 years old, 25 years old. Because at this day and age, you're 30 years old and you're living in your mom's basement. We've seen that all the time.
It
Now
happens.
and there's more now than ever. You're right. You're 1,000% right. And you know what? It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
That's why I start my videos off with a question. And like Expat and I talked about this before. I start my videos off with a question because I want to engage people. I want them to think about things. Like, why do we do what we do? Like, why does the Fed do what it does? Why does silver do what it does? Why does silver and gold have a place in my life? Why? Why would I want that to be there? And I always ask people these questions, and I want them to be engaged. I want them to go down the rabbit hole. Little things lead to things, like we talked about before. And Expat and I have had discussion after discussion about things like this. And the more people ask questions, the better off they are. If they can question authority, I don't care if you're left side, right down the middle. You have to question everything. Everybody's doing something for a reason. And you have to, as the individual, find out why.
Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree. And I think that it's just that it's we all agree because we're all in the same boat. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of that other person. Someone comes to my channel and watches this dude, a Cuban cat from Miami, having 400 ounces of silver plus 4 ounces of gold. That equates to what? I don't know, $20,000, $18,000, whatever the hell. The guy's like, how the hell am I going to go ahead and get that? That's impossible. However, instead of asking that question to themselves, because I always think about, when I do my videos, I always think about what people are going to be attracted to this video. And that's why I don't like any of my videos, because I don't think any of my videos are any good. But I always think about that type of aspect. I always think to myself, I'm like, if some regular Joe watches SC's video about the question and he does engage with them, all he's going to engage of is the negative aspect of it, instead of engaging with an open mind frame. Now, in order to get an open mind frame, I think that you have to have some type of positive outcome happen to you for you to have an open mind frame. Because I think closed mind frames is when just shit gets real bad. It's very hard to have an open mindset, and that's where you come along. That's where I come along. That's where Expat comes along. Silver Britches, Florida Stacker, all these big guys, like I could name a whole list of them. But at the end of the day, I don't know, man. I want people to realize that there is a way out. And you don't have to be closed-minded. You don't have to be, this super duper rich guy. 1 ounce a day is better than anything,
Yeah. That's exactly right. And I mean, like, the thing is, like, the way you talk and the way SC talks and the way I talk and the way Silver Britches talks, and like we all do it in our own way, and we might have you might be able to reach out to somebody, Juice, and connect with somebody and educate them in a way that I wouldn't be able to do, because they're just, for whatever reason, things line up for where they're more like, interested or whatever in your video, and vice versa. And somebody might go to SC's channel, and I heard before that, like, if you want to convince somebody of something, you shouldn't really argue your point with them and try to like force them to see things your way. You should just ask them questions that lead them to the answer. And I like that about SC's channel as well, is that he's asking questions, and if you're answering them and you're seeking knowledge, you're going to be able to get the answer yourself. He's just asking the right question that leads you in that direction. And I mean, like, as far as the educational part of it, people realize, Juice, that, and actually, I think this is true for all three of us, that none of us are like pretending. You know, we're not fronting that we like know something that we really don't, because like, if you can't explain something clearly and simply and easily, then you don't really understand it. And I think that's what you recognized in your teacher when you were talking about getting the business degree, is that like, guys talking about this and that and like using buzzwords and acronyms and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, he doesn't really know what he's talking about.
Yeah, you've never done a business transaction in your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like law school professors who have never practiced law. It's like, okay, well, you're teaching me like the theories about law, but I want to know about law. You know, I don't want to know about the theories about life. I want to know about life. You know, I mean, it's
That's
good
exactly
to hear about the theories and stuff and like ponder it and think about it for yourself and see how it relates to your life, your individual circumstance. But the real core of the education comes from experience, wisdom, and real world examples, you know? And like, here's just one, I'll give one example of something that like, I didn't hear this until like a couple of years ago, but this is a Einstein quote. Right, Einstein pretty much recognized as one of the smartest people, right? And I said this in one of my videos before, but compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and people who understand it can earn it, and people who don't understand it have to pay it. You know,
Yep.
and why did I
1000%.
never hear about that before? You know, like
That doesn't get taught, bro.
I think it's like not an accident that we don't hear about that, because I'm like, okay, compound interest is a very important concept to learn about, right? But I never even heard of it until like not that long
That's
ago.
what. That's why Benjamin Graham, the Intelligent Investor, that's one of Warren Buffett's favorite books. That's actually was his teacher that taught him about compound interest. It's a very good book. It's I read it about 3 times already, and it's very hard to understand the first time around. It's very hard to understand the second time around. The third time around, I think you get the gist of it if you're in the markets and kind of understand what's going on.
That's another thing, real quick, just sorry to interrupt
Mhm.
you. I just want to jump in about like reading books several times. If you read a book and you don't understand it the first time around, but a lot of people are saying it's a good book, like, go live your life a little bit and come back and read it again, because more likely than not, what's going on is that you don't have enough background knowledge and experience to apply what you read in the book to use it in your life. You know, so when you read a book more than once, because I used to never understand that when I was a little kid. I was like, why do people read books more than one time? You read it once, you get it, like that's it, you know. But that's because I was, you know, I didn't understand. You grow as an individual and you have this background knowledge, and when you read something again, you're like, oh yeah, you know what, between the first time I read this book and the second time and the third time, so many things have happened that now this sentence, it never changed, but it means something different to me now, you know, or this chapter in this book, I understand it differently because of my experience, you know. And that is real wisdom, and that's what you're giving people, that's what SC is giving people, and that's what I try to give people. I try to do the fun stuff. I got a lot of the unboxings and stuff like that, and I'm trying to mix in just like,
Yeah, that's where you get your views at, so that way at least you get get some people joining up. But at the end of the day, I think the YouTube stuff is definitely needs to be educational, and unfortunately that's not what the views are. You know, the views want you to spend a whole bunch of money and show you the clips and glamour, and you know that's something that once people are attracted to your channel, I've noticed that the people that are attracted to the channels, and yeah, they like the glitz and glamours, but they also like you.
definitely, man.
And I think that people grow.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing, and like I try to just kind of blend and mix you know, like showing off the medals with educational stuff, no matter what it is. Sometimes, like the other day, I did one where it's just like I'm just talking about Korea and like where the designs come from and stuff like that. Because we were talking about like traveling. SC mentioned he'd travel around the world, and like, you know, you just get different perspectives on stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and that pays dividends later on down the line when you're able to see things. Because you mentioned it's like I remember when I was younger, I like when I look back on it now, I felt like actually I was like a rat trapped in a maze, and like I couldn't see outside of it. You know what I mean? And if I feel like I finally escaped, but when you're actually in it, it's so difficult to see from like a bird's eye view. You know what I mean? But once you start looking at things and asking questions, like the way how SC does and like how you do and stuff too, it's really helps you to gain a new perspective, and you're able to turn that on and off to see things differently, you know, and that is invaluable. And that's something that really, it's very difficult to teach. You have to experience it for yourself. So, I mean, I think that like you, Juice, SC, and myself, and several other channels, what we have in common is that we try to share our knowledge and our experience and our education. We're doing it for our own interests in ourselves and stuff, but also to like help like kind of spread the words that are missing in our education system, and to like help other people. That's the
Of
main.
course.
That's like that's
And
the core.
and even in our own community, there's a lot of people in our own community that are very I don't like to use the word ignorant, but I don't want to use it in a bad way.
Yeah.
But
Don't know
ignorant
what.
in yes, exactly. Yes, see, exactly. Um, and I just think that if we give a little bit of information that we know and just hand it down, eventually it would evolve and become actual knowledge to other people.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, become that light. I'm always intrigued when I see videos of how silver reacts, or like I'm not a fan of clickbait videos like, oh, what silver should you get, or are you missing any silver, or the 5 tips of
Yeah.
silver, or whatever the crap that it. I don't attract myself to that. I attract
Yeah.
myself to the real crap. What is silver doing today? What is
Yeah.
silver can do for the long run? Why is silver doing this? Why is gold doing this?
Yeah.
That's what I like to watch. I don't like to watch like clickbait stuff. I it's not that I refuse to. I do watch it because I feel like I have to give support to the people, and again, everything is a business too. I look at this YouTube stuff, even though I'm not gonna get monetized, or I'm not planning to get monetized, is that I'm using it as a forefront to get education across.
Yeah.
And if it needs me to go ahead and comment on videos that I really not really necessarily attracted to, but I'll comment on it, I'll like it, I'll
Mm.
share it, because again, business, marketing, that's what we got to do. That's what life revolves around. One of the biggest things that I've learned in life is perception is key.
Mhm.
Perception
Mm.
is key in everything.
Yeah.
Perception is key.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's something that needs to be taught in schools.
Yeah.
Is what is perception,
Yeah.
and
Politics
how,
is not what's actually going on. It's just what people think is going on. You know, it's not
yes,
what you
yes.
know. It's what you prove. You know what I
It's
mean? Like,
exactly. What is the definition of perception? What do you what how can you benefit from perception, and how can you cause chaos with perception?
how do innocent people end up in jail when they really didn't commit the crime? It's because they had
Exactly.
their lawyer was too weak or the other lawyer was too good, and they
Yeah.
ended up getting convicted of something they didn't do because of the perception. You know, so that's 100% real. And like the other
Yeah.
thing too, I'm with you on those videos where it's like, what kind of silver should you stack? Like, let's, you know, like, but the thing is that somebody who's never seen that before, who's never thought about it before, that might be the entry point for them.
Oh
And
yeah.
then more experience and more, then they're gonna graduate to like, you know, your level of video or something
That's
like
why
that.
that's why you can't hate on them. You just have to applaud them,
Right.
comment, share it, and keep it moving. One thing I've learned in this YouTube game and in the stacking community is that as long as you are willing to be willing to have camaraderie,
Mhm.
you're gonna be uh, provided information for you to find good deals, for you to find other networks with people, for you to talk to people and to find, basically network with everyone. I think the stacking community has that for us. Come on, man. I mean, honestly, I could literally email someone right now and be like, hey, look, I want to find a roll of American Silver Eagles for this price.
Mhm.
And more than likely I can get that and make that business transaction versus me going to a bullion dealership just because I've networked with people and you just market yourself that way. And I think
Yeah.
that what I just said right there, I think that needs to be taught
Mhm.
to the younger generation. How to
Yeah.
do that, how to network, how to talk, how to look, man. I was born in Miami, Florida. I'm a Miami-Dade Floridian cat, right next to Carroll City. I've always been in the streets, not the hood. No, I'm not saying like hood stuff. I was always in La Calle is how my parents used to say in La Calle. I was always in La Calle, meaning the
Street.
streets.
Yeah.
And I was always hustling. I was always talking to people, and I was always trying to make something happen for myself. But now you have a list of people where I can go ahead and call and be like, hey, look, I need to get this done, and I got
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yep.
people need to learn that.
Well,
And that's where
on that
like a lesson in school where they say to you that it's not necessarily what you know. I mean, that's important too, but it's also who you know. You know
Oh,
what I
I
mean? And
totally agree with you, 1,000%.
and learning how to speak to people, that's another thing that people need to understand. You treat people with
yeah,
respect, you'll typically get respect back. You just can't talk at or down on somebody.
yeah,
And that's something
Yeah,
you see a lot of younger generations do now. And
SC, you're very good at that. I'm not good at that. I'm very blunt, unfortunately. But SC, I know for your wordplay, I bow down to you, bro, because your wordplay is incredible.
Well, and then SC, you also talked about like how some dude came into the coin shop where you was at one time when you were in there and just started like you're gonna pay this or whatever, right?
demanding
And
premiums.
yeah,
Yeah, that guy, man, demanding premiums from the store owner. He's like,
yeah,
you will give me this.
yeah,
No, she will not.
yeah,
Have a good day. But
yeah,
then
man.
me being me, I called him
Wait a
out,
minute.
kind of.
Wait a minute. What happened? What happened?
Okay, so here's what happened. Last year, when silver went for like $30 an ounce, or really close to $30 an ounce, this guy comes into my LCS, and he's got like 100 or 200 ounces. I can't remember exactly what it was. It actually might have been a lot more than that. Sunshine Mitts, what it was.
Yeah. 10-ounce
It
bars,
was.
right?
Yep. All right,
Yeah.
10-ounce bars. And he comes in there and he's telling her, "You'll pay me spot. I mean, you'll pay me spot." And she says, "No, I'll pay you under spot. That's what I do." And he's demanding, dude. He's going off on her. And so, me being me, I'm a good guy. I look at her and he leaves. I said, "Hey, you mind if I go talk to him?" She goes, "Do your thing." I go up there. I talk to him. Like, "Hey, man, I'll pay you a spot for what you got." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "But I want to test it." And so I
Hmm.
tested it, and it all tested fake.
Hmm.
But his demeanor is what I was referring to begin with.
Wow.
He was in there demanding a place he's never
Yeah.
been, demanding the owner pay him spot price. It just doesn't work that way. I mean,
Yeah,
even for
man.
me, I spend a lot of money in that store. And I'm not just talking about what I show on YouTube. I'm talking about a lot of money. And I don't get stuff at spot.
Of
So
course
it's
not.
like, dude,
You
she don't
got to
do
pay
that
the
for me.
cost to do the business transaction.
That's right. And
And
but that's what I'm referring to. People need to learn how to talk to people too, and
you're,
just
I totally
being
agree with
blunt.
you.
a way to talk to people. That's a good way. Being blunt is good. But there are times when you're like, you know what? Enough's enough. Or
Yeah.
if you have a question, ask a question with a questioning attitude. Don't come up there
Yes.
demanding an answer.
Yeah. I mean, that's like you guys have both touched on like the importance of relationships, and like that's something that I've learned over time, not necessarily through mistakes, but just I've seen the value of building bridges with people and what that can do for you later on. You know what I mean? And I definitely agree with you, Juice, that that's something that's kind of unique to our community. And like I also agree that we need to educate the youth on this. And one of our first, it might have been our first episode, SC, we talked about being your own bank, and like
Yep.
that's kind of what you were describing there, Juice, is like calling somebody up and saying, you know what, I'm looking to get a roll of Eagles or sell a roll of Eagles or whatever, like
Yeah.
we're in our own, economic ecosystem in a sense, and it's honest money, and it's like I consider it like the real economy. They talk about the real economy. To me, this is real economy. We know each other, we're supporting each other, we're
I
helping each other.
agree.
It's a business
I just want this to grow. I want my next door neighbor to know what silver is.
Yes.
Exactly.
And once we get that type of camaraderie or juice or whatever you want to call it, once we get that type of environment,
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a lot easier for transactions to take place. I
Yeah.
think right now in the stacking community, I spoke about it with you, Expat. I think the stacking community right now is a little bit segregated in the sense of like people, some people have this little group here on Facebook, some people have this little group on Instagram, and like little group on YouTube, and like everything is all separated. If there was a way that we could create some type of hub, that's one of the projects that I'm working with DOA, and Husky's involved in it as well. Just trying to grow the community all in one base, and it's something that I have to talk about later on in the future because it's literally in infancy stage, but
Yeah.
uh, it's just educating as much as possible,
Yeah.
showing what silver and what gold, palladium, platinum, what commodities actually worth to the world. I think that's going to be very beneficial to everyone. And I think we need to do that because a lot of people are now going to be, this next generation, our kids' generation, are going to be born with this type of fluff mentality that needs to be exonerated. It cannot be here anymore. We need
Yeah.
to teach people what real money is. We need to teach people what the dollar is actually doing, what other countries are actually doing with their currency, what different types of currencies are out there. Yes, there's cryptos, there's silver, there's gold. What would they need to know about it? They need to. Because I can't show an American silver eagle to one of my friends and say, "What is this?" and then look at it and say, "I don't know what this is. What the hell is this?" You know? You
Yeah.
get that all the time. Go somewhere with an American silver eagle to a gas station or to somewhere and just say, "You know what this is?" And they'll look at it and be like, "I don't know. I
Yeah.
thought it was one of those chocolates." You
I've
know?
done this for my area, or at least not that exact same thing, but something very similar to that. Well, I've
Mhm.
gone to my local retailers and asked them, hey, in the event of an emergency, would you be willing to take silver? And I'd pull it out of my pocket and show it to them. They're like, yes, some no. Some wanted specific silver because they knew a little bit about it.
Yeah.
And so, you're right, man. Just pulling it out of your pocket, expecting somebody to know what it is, you don't know
I
what
think
you don't know.
exactly. And I think that that's where, like, when everyone says, "Oh, you know, gold is gonna be the new gold is gonna be backed by the dollar again." I tell everyone this. I'm like, yeah, that would be freaking great. That would be awesome because that way the dollar it has some type of control. There's some supervision on it. But does someone really actually know what gold is?
Mhm.
Like I showed an American gold on New Year's Eve. I think I had relatives over here and they were talking about I was talking about gold and silver, of course, and I showed them some gold eagles, and they're like, "What is this? This is gold." He's like, "Oh, for real? And how much is gold?" They didn't even know the price of gold.
Yeah.
You ever see the video where the guy goes out to the general public and offers them a 1 pound candy bar of chocolate or a 1 pound gold bar, and everybody
Oh,
chose the chocolate?
yes. I've seen those videos, and it's crazy to me because that's unfortunately what people think.
Dude, I
That
saw a video along the similar lines, but even the guy even took it a step further. He's like, he's standing outside of like a LCS shop. This is actually in SD in San Diego. And he's like, I'll sell you this. You know what this is? He got like I think he had like a 10-ounce bar, 100-ounce bar of silver. And then he's like, offering to sell it to him for a specific price, which was like really cheap. And then they were standing right next to a coin shop, and then like people were like, no, I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird for a stranger to offer to sell you something on the street, but then like he takes them to the coin shop and they find out how much it's worth. But he said, if we go there, you're not going to be able to buy it. But like it just goes along the same lines. People have no idea. They don't know what it is,
shit,
So,
they do that to me, they're gonna get robbed. I'll tell you that much.
but yeah, I
I
mean,
was
like,
thinking the same.
go ahead.
Good deal. No, I was just like, yeah, ruin my day with a good deal. Go ahead.
Go ahead, no worries, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's just that's unfortunately that's how it is. And you know what? The younger generations are gonna lean towards cryptos. They're gonna lean towards more digital assets, which is understandable. I think that is gonna be unfortunately the future. Fortunately and unfortunately. Now, I do have this idea where I don't think that it would ever happen, but it'll be cool if it does happen. Is a cryptocurrency backed by silver or gold?
We're actually talking about.
I think
There
that
is, I think there is a cryptocurrency that is backed by gold, if I'm not mistaken.
by
I think
physical gold.
yeah, I think it's called London coin, but I'm not 100% sure actually.
I
But
have to search that because I've never heard of it before. But I
it's a
think
good
that
idea. Yeah.
that would be the most feasible way to go ahead and ditch out actual currency.
Yeah.
If you want to think about the future, because right now, if the government wants to do a cryptocurrency, they don't even have their system in place to, dude, we're still doing freaking ballots in person, voting ballots in person. Come on now. Like so people getting their social security checks freaking weeks late, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. So the government doesn't have the technology to do it, but I think that if someone were to pull the trigger, it would be beneficial if they pull the trigger with something that's controlled or backed by gold or silver. That's just my opinion, though.
No, I think it's a good idea. And there are like, I mean, in Korea, they're experimenting. They're in like phase 3 of a like a experiment or a study of using a central bank backed digital currency. I know they're doing it in China. I heard Silver Game of Thrones talk about this, and I looked into it myself, and it's true. They've already rolled it out in the Bahamas.
Mhm.
And then I know that in Sweden and like some other European countries, they're also at different various levels of it. So like I was actually kind of surprised by how many countries are like already basically reaching it and looking
Doing
into it.
cryptos? Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's crazy
So,
because that's the
one
future,
thing,
unfortunately.
you were talking about like having an idea of like a kind of like a one kind of location or whatever where stackers can go to, right, rather than having like these loose like uncoordinated fragments and pockets on YouTube and Facebook and whatever. uh Maybe you can discuss with Golden Gun. He might be able to share some resources, because when I had him on when we had him on the Silvercast, he mentioned that in Australia they have that, and then I know in England they have the Silver Forum as well, and even here
Mhm.
in Korea we have like a similar thing that I just recently discovered through YouTube. um Basically it's a community where you earn like different levels, and at each level you get the ability to do different and new things. So like you start out by, you know, just participating in the community, commenting, liking,
Hmm.
making your own posts and stuff like that. And then after you reach a certain, there's like a constitution that explains how everything
Yeah.
works. And took me a while to read it because it's in Korean. But after I understood it, like I already got to like the second level, and there's like 5 levels. And at once you reach a certain level, you're able to actually do transactions like buying and selling, you know,
Yeah.
go
Similar
metal.
to kind of a project that I'm tackling now.
Yeah,
It's very infant stage. Um, but I'm gonna try to make we're gonna try to make it as simple as possible for every user globally. Um, and I think that that's something that I really can't talk about right now because I don't have uh, the partnership that we have. I don't have the authorization to go ahead and talk about it.
yeah,
But but I'll tell you one thing. Be prepared because 2021 is going to be a really good ride. But other than that, I don't. That's a marketing. No, let's get back to the education side. I think everyone needs to have that. Um, I think that it's lacking. I think that it's very segregated. But if we could all join together and drink that, that red pill, blue pill, what a seed talks about. I think that everyone needs to be able to be knowledgeable enough to say, all right, a silver eagle costs $28, $29 for a reason,
yeah,
and go from there. It's just that how we get there is totally different because I mean everyone teaches different, everyone learns differently, and some people don't really want to hear it.
yeah,
Some people rather just buy stocks, which is understandable because everything is fluffed up. Um, but again, like I said before, illusion is a killer, man. It's a hell of a drug. Illusion is a heroin shot. And once you're an addict, you're an addict, bro, and
yeah,
it's really, really hard to get out of it. Just like anyone that's in the markets right now, and they're looking at their paper profits, or they're looking at their pension, and they're looking at their IRAs, and they're looking at all of that, and it's freaking amazing. Which I'm in it too. It's amazing, yeah, it is. But amazing leads to danger. Um, and it's been in history. It's been in cyclical matters, and everything is cyclical in life. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. It's gonna be a wild ride.
Well, you've been at the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows, and like I was seeing at the end of the last part, you know, of this episode, is that like, you know, it's all it's 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 like the yin and the yang, you know, and like
Hmm.
when you're up that high, that's how much further you have to fall. So you just have to realize that you don't have to be afraid of heights, but at the same time, don't get stuck in the euphoria, and like you said, like don't become an addict where like this whole illusion becomes your reality and you are like attached to that, because then
Yeah,
when it comes time to fall, you're gonna get slammed to the ground. And
yeah, and you will fall. Like
yeah,
nothing
right,
ever in life goes
yeah,
straight up. Nothing ever in
exactly,
life. You have
yeah,
to be prepared to fall, even on the way up.
yeah,
So just prepare yourself. That's why people stack. That's why
yeah,
people stack for a savings. I took me a while to understand that, um, but I finally understood it after I grabbed my first piece of metal and I put it in my safe and I told myself, "Oh shit, I
yeah,
have $1,000 right now that I literally can't go to my bank right now and spend it on Uber Eats." Or spend it on BS. I don't know, whatever the hell. I
yeah,
literally would have to exchange it for dollars and then get that
mhm,
dollars and do whatever it is I need to do with it.
yeah,
So it's just a reinforcement of savings, and I think that people need to understand how to first who they are as a person. That probably right there is probably the most difficult thing to understand, because there's people that are 56 years old and still don't know who they are. They
yeah,
just live their life constant as a zombie. Who they are as a person. After you figure that out, then you figure out, all right, now I know who Juice is. I'm gonna go ahead and invest like this, like my style. This, and this. Now,
mhm,
expat, you understand yourself. Now you have to understand how you invest. You invest like this, and this, and this. And you guys have to understand that no one is gonna have the same ideology you do. So you have to understand that you as an individual have to go your path, your avenue. You know, you could go ahead and switch lanes and this and that, but you got to end up in your avenue. You got to end up where you feel who you really are. Just like SC. SC doesn't have gold. He has, I think, a little bit of gold, right, SC?
So
I was
I have
pre-
one gold coin to my name, and it is a 10th ounce gold coin. That's it.
There you go.
No,
There you go.
I am a silver bull, so to
There
speak.
you go. There you go. So everyone has their own way, but you know who you are. And that's the key right there. That's the key to this whole podcast that I want to go ahead and this is why I'm so grateful to be invited in this because I want people to understand who you really are, how you should really stack, and based off your personality, that's how you stack. That's how you invest. That's how you go ahead and pull the trigger on stuff. You know, just like 2 is 1. 2 is 1 only stacks gold, you know? But if you put 2 is 1 and Silver Conundrum in a conversation together, they both have the same ideology. It's just different routes of taking it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think that this community is very beneficial to go ahead and educate to. It's just how to do it. That's a different story. But I
Yeah.
think that we should all play a part because I'm telling you, man, the fluff is here and it's in full effect and it could be here for a while, but people need to realize and wake up what's going on. I understand it, man. I'm in it too. I mean, I play the stock market to the upside. I'm one of those dudes, you know, I play the flow. But I understand that the flow is a little bit out there and I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen. I just know that something's gonna happen.
I mean, I totally agree with you on that, and I also agree that the first step of finding out who you are is the most difficult. And some people might say, like, I don't even know how to do that. You know, here's my suggestion. All right, challenge yourself somehow, and I don't mean like a little bit. I mean, you know, if you don't know how to swim, just jump into the water. You know, if you're wondering about the
Not
stacking thing,
so.
don't
Jump
go
in the
all
deep.
in. You ain't gotta go to the deep end. You know what I'm saying? But just get in there. Like if people are wondering like about whether I should stack or not, look, man, just get yourself, just do it. Like just get a couple of coins and like see how you feel about it. You know what I mean? That is my recommendation. Challenge yourself. Get yourself out of your comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no matter what, even if it's not even with like financial stuff, even if it's like physically challenge yourself, you know, somehow mentally, physically challenge yourself, get out of your comfort zone because that's the only way you're going to grow. You know, they call
Yeah.
it growing pains for a reason. You got to challenge yourself, and eventually it might take a while, but you'll know when you find out who you are. And the way like that happens through adversity. You know, some people say that adversity builds character, other people say it reveals it, but either way, whichever one you subscribe to, you're going to find out who you are eventually through adversity. So if you don't know how to find out who you are, that's my suggestion to you. Start challenging
Yeah.
yourself and don't give up. You know, it is going to
Yeah.
be uncomfortable. There's going to be tears. There's going to be pain. There might be some blood, you know, who knows, but do it and you'll come out the other side better for sure. Just stay honest with yourself and do it that way. And like, I think I'm so grateful to have you come on and to spread that message, you know, because that is like one of the most valuable messages people could hear, not just for stacking and finance, but for their life. You know what I mean? So I 100% appreciate that, man.
No problem, man. That's why I'm here. That's why I created a YouTube channel.
Yeah, man. That's awesome, dude. I'm like feeling good after this conversation, man.
You gotta feel good, man. Like one of the things that you said about just ending this conversation as is yes, you should go ahead and do stuff that you're uncomfortable with. You should do all of that. Everything that Expat said, you should do. One thing that I would recommend to you to do, just one more thing, is
Yeah.
sit down by yourself and see all the bad shit that went through your life,
Mhm,
all the good shit that happened in your life.
mhm.
Correlate that all together and see why the good stuff happened to you and why the bad stuff happened to you. Once you answer those two questions, you know who you are.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. And I think that like is something that is an exercise that like even if
You got to do it every day. You can't just answer that one time.
Right. That's something you have to continue to do, for sure. Because who you are changes as well over time. So that's very good. Very good point. SC, you have any points you want to say for along these lines?
I was going to say, if you want to grow up a little bit, take a step back like what you guys were talking about and just look at what's going on around you. And I don't mean like in your life. Like, look at what people around you are doing and see how you feel about that. Do you want to be that guy who's over in the corner with a sign that says, "We'll work for food"? Or do you want to be the guy over there who's able to give that man $1 or $2 because you have extra? So step back and see what you want for yourself. I mean, so only you as an individual can decide on what you as an individual will become. We can talk about it all day. Unless that person is willing to make that first step, like Expat said earlier, it's a hopeless discussion. That person has to make the decision for themselves. And as long as they don't do that, they'll never know anything about what they want or need to do. So I would just say step back and see what you want. Do you want to be that guy who's asking for money, or do you want to be the guy who's able to give it because you have extra?
Yeah.
Such a good point.
All right, guys. Well, man, this is like one of the most interesting discussions.
People, after this freaking podcast, people better be motivated to go ahead and do freaking buy 100 ounces of silver, 100 ounces of gold. Go out there, bro, demolish the universe right now, man. I'm telling you. Go ahead and do it. Anyone has a capability to do that shit.
Yeah, dude. I love it, man. I mean, even I'm like, amped up after this discussion, dude. I'm telling you, man. This is good. This is good stuff, dude. Like, I feel really good after this, and I really appreciate him from both you guys and explaining everything. It's really great, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think both of you guys have something going on that's infant, but I think that if you guys can just push it a little more, and I understand that you guys have your life and all that stuff going on, I get it, dude. But this Silvercast, if you guys can just push it a little more to the umph, I'm telling you, man, this is going to be a successful podcast, because I think every community needs to have a podcast like this. And I think you guys are perfectly capable of doing it. And you guys have this connection intelligently that it's just, dude, make it happen, man. I mean, I don't want to keep rambling, but I know you guys can make it happen. I love this freaking podcast. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, dude.
Brother.
I'm more motivated ever. Keep juicing up that podcast.
Yeah, keep juicing up that stack. Everybody needs to keep juicing up that stack for 2021. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I love that. That's your catchphrase, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody, we hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to catch you guys all in the next one. See you later.
All right. Thank you, guys.